All right, welcome to Recruiting is No Joke. I am your host, Joel Lalgee. I am excited to be here as always. We have another fantastic guest and excited to have the conversation today. We have Giorgio in the house. Giorgio, welcome to the show. Why don't you give everybody a quick intro, who you are, what you do, and who you do it for. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you for having me. So my name is Giorgio. I'm based out of Barcelona, Spain. I am currently the global TA director at Sephora. So looking at our ways of working around talent acquisition for all of our recruitment efforts. And previously worked 9 years at H&M. And in my last role, I was the head of the talent COE there on a group level.
Amazing. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Recruiting is No Joke. I want to give a special shout out to Hey Milo AI for sponsoring this show. You know how word travels fast when something actually works? Well, recruiters we know have started using Hey Milo AI, and they're already talking about the difference. They've reclaimed back hours that used to vanish into the black hole of initial phone screens, and now they spend their time coaching candidates, refining roles, working with hiring managers, and strategizing growth. In those frantic, high-volume hiring cycles where you got to go through thousands of applicants, the last thing you want to do is awkward, half-baked interviews that tarnish your reputation. Hey Milo's conversational AI consistently delivers smooth, two-way interviews at scale, and that help people remember you for the right reasons. So if you're comparing providers, pick the one that lifts your reputation and brand instead of the one that leaves candidates shaking their heads. Go ahead and book a demo today at heymilo.ai and find out why teams leading rely on Hey Milo. Now back to the show. And so, your current role, how many hires per year are you responsible for Sephora?
Well, we're talking about volume hiring here. So Sephora...
High volume.
Yeah. Sephora clocks about a little over 30,000 hires a year. Of course, it's not, there's retailers that do a lot more, but it is already quite significant volume. When I was at H&M, we were around 80,000, I would say.
Wow.
Bigger size and a bit higher turnover at the time. I don't know how they're doing now, but the volumes were a little bit higher there.
Yeah, and it's funny. I've had probably on this show a lot of people from tech industry. Well, quite a few people from construction industry in the past. I think you're one of the first that I've had from the retail space. So I feel like the retail industry doesn't necessarily get as many accolades as maybe some of these other industries as far as career trajectory, career growth. How did you get started in that space? And I guess when you got started, were you like right away, hey, this is the space I want to be in? And like, did you know you could have the career growth that you've had? Like, how did you get started?
I mean, I think there's two dimensions here. One dimension is as a professional in the HR space or in the IT space or in the marketing space, can you get a career at a retailer? Yes, of course. I don't think, of course, there's probably industries that pay better on average, but it's definitely a place where there's a lot of possibilities. There's great companies that are growing. So the careers in that sense, absolutely. I think there's a good question to answer as to whether you can pursue that career starting in the store. Can you start working as a salesperson in a store and then grow and make a career out of it that would either take you to leadership roles in stores? And that's likely possible. I've seen a lot of people going through it. Less likely, but still possible to then at some point get out of the store into office roles and continue a career in that trajectory. It depends on how organizations are set up and if they are incentivizing this kind of transitions or not. So it's about really the talent strategy.
Yeah. And then how did you get started in the retail space?
I mean, for me, I started when I used to live in Hong Kong. I lived in Hong Kong for 8 years of my life. And there I started working for H&M, not so much on the retail space. So I knew the business. They wanted a global head of TA for what H&M calls production, which is basically the sourcing side of the business. H&M does not have manufacturing, manufactures through suppliers. So my responsibility was managing the teams that recruited for this business unit that manages the relationships with all the suppliers globally. And it was headquartered in Hong Kong because most of the suppliers, especially at the time, were in Asia. And so the teams were mostly in China, Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Turkey. So this was the network. And then I transitioned from there, from a business unit role. My role grew after the first 5 years into more of a group role. And there I took the scope of the retail space and honestly, immediately fell in love with it and saw the incredible opportunities that exist in that area. Honestly, usually people tend to dismiss a little bit the retail space. It's high volume. There's a lot of churn. You hire people today and they might be gone in a few months from now. Or you hire a lot of temporary roles. There isn't a lot of sophistication in the way you recruit people, because with volume comes the need for speed and efficiency and scale and optimization. But there is incredible opportunities to optimize. And when you do this well, the impact on the organization is huge, because all of us, if you think about the 33,000 hires that I mentioned before for Sephora, a little less than 30,000 end up being beauty advisors in stores. And that means, if you do this well, 5% better, and there's room to do it much more than 5% better, but do that 5% better, multiply that by 30,000 or 28 or 29, you're really delivered value to the business very quickly.
How much in your position are you thinking about kind of bringing people in? And then also, like from a retention standpoint, right? Like you're seeing a lot of churn from people. So how much of the thinking and how much are you working on just trying to like retain people? And like, what are some of those strategies that you're seeing working right now when it comes to, retaining people for more than a year? Let's say.
We have a specific focus on that. I would say Sephora as a business does not have a particularly high turnover in the retail space, but we are putting particular focus and emphasis on the first year turnover, people that we want to retain for longer, because we have a lot of seasonal hires as well, and those are meant to go. But on the permanent long-term hires, there is still a significant percentage of people that walks away before the first year is finished. And we want to make sure to bring that down. The way we're doing it, I think at the moment, goes into two directions, primarily from a TA perspective, because of course TA plays a role. It's not the only impact. You go and work in a store and the manager is a terrible person. That's very little that's very little a TA can do in that sense. Hopefully, I'm quite sure in our network there aren't many terrible people as store managers. Bad managers are everywhere. So it's but TA can do a couple of things. On the one side, we are in the process of identifying skills, personality, more traits than skills, personality traits that, based on our research and our analysis and discussions, drive results and success. And to put it in practical terms, I'm just making like a very, very stupid and simple example, but you don't like to talk to people, maybe work in a Sephora store isn't necessarily what's going to make you happy. And if it's not going to make you happy, you're not going to stay long term. So identifying people that have the capabilities to, not just the skills and the competencies, but more the personal drives that will make them happy in such an environment. So on the one side,
how are you vetting that out through the process then? Like, because I would imagine with retail and other high volume, the high volume roles, thinking about warehouse workers, some of these jobs where you don't necessarily need a ton of experience. You need some skills. You need to be able to show up. How do you kind of vet that out and keep the process quick and efficient as well as far as the application goes?
So the journey we're on, bear in mind, I joined Sephora less than a year ago, so we're still on that journey. But it's our biggest and most important project for the upcoming months and years, I would say. We are going to replace entirely the application process. Today, you apply, either you go to a store, you scan a QR code, you put your CV and so forth, or you apply online with your CV. We want to scrap that. We don't get much relevant information from CVs, frankly, for those roles. For other roles, it makes a lot of sense. But for beauty advisor roles, yes, I can get 5 to 10% of the information that I need, but it's not a fair way of making a selection as to who goes to interview or not based on a 5 to 10% approximation of the information. So we're going to remove that CV sending altogether and replace it with a light touch assessment. That's fun, that's engaging, that's gamified. We haven't clearly nailed the vendor yet. We're in the phase of...
You're going to get all the sales pitches now.
No, it doesn't matter. I want to talk to as many people as possible and then decide. These, I think I've spoken already to tens of vendors of these kind. They're popping up like mushrooms these days because AI and leveraging LLMs is opening up a lot of possibilities in this space. Then it's up to us to identify which possibilities are the good ones and which ones are not. But that kind of assessment, whether it's powered by AI or not, doesn't matter to us. But as long as there is a possibility to have an outcome that I can trust, that is validated, that tells me this person is, say, an extrovert, great, then this might work in this sense, might not work in this other sense, and so on and so forth. I need to trust the outcome of that process. And then from there is not an automated process. Then there is someone there's a store manager usually that reviews the outputs of all the assessments and decides who they invite for a real physical interview in the store at a second and final step. So we're trying to automate the first part, making it easier for store managers that are today screening CVs like crazy, and then better experience for candidates, and in principle fairer for candidates that get assessed on things that matter for the job, and hopefully in a very unbiased. I say hopefully because we haven't decided the tool, but our ambition is that it's as unbiased as it can possibly be, and technology allows us to be very, very sharp on bias removal, which it's unlikely with human beings. So I'm a firm believer of the possibility of diminishing bias through technology. That's a lot easier to do than it is with people.
What's been the best channel to reach people if we start in the US, and then we can talk about the difference between the U.S. and some of the international markets. But in the U.S., what's been the best channel to be able to reach people, and what's been most effective for you? I know you've only been in your role for coming up to a year. What's the channel that's been most effective for reaching people?
Frankly, for I think the teams in the US or in EME or in Asia, they would be better placed to answer that question, because there's differences in the different regions. But if we're talking specifically about the volume piece, so the sort of beauty advisor kind of recruitment, I think we are in a very, very luxurious position for those roles with volume. We get a lot of applications every time we put an ad out there. It's not universally true. We have stores in locations where people don't travel to it. You need to find local people. There's not a lot of local people. So you might get those 5 or 6 applications for a beauty advisor, and that these are the options you have. But on average, we receive tens, sometimes hundreds of applications for a single position. So our job, and we're blessed, right? It's not like this for everybody, but our brand is recognized. That there's a strong appeal to it, and there's a strong appeal specifically towards the target population that we are interested in, because they're passionate about the product, they're engaged with the brand, they're engaged with maybe they're not so engaged with retail. So that's the tricky part for us. They love the product, they love the brand, they want to be associated with it, they want to work for us. But they are not fully aware of what working in retail in a store is, which is a very fun job, but it's also a very tiring job. And you're on your feet the whole day. Customers are supposed to be nice, but some aren't. And some, it's you get, especially in Sephora, You get customers that are extremely knowledgeable. They have done a lot of research. They come in there and they'll challenge your knowledge, and so it's not easy. And then the job isn't just about selling, although selling, of course, is the most important part of it. But you need to restock. Sometimes at 6 a.m. you need to come because it's the weekly restock of the store or the bi-weekly restock of the store. So there's also some manual labor involved in it. There's keeping the store tidy. It's not in your job description, but it's something that's dirty on the floor. It's your store. You gotta pick it up and clean things up. So this is part of the work that we do with this kind of assessment, is to create some awareness as to what it is to work at Sephora, the good stuff, the fun parts, being part of a store team. If that's the thing that makes you happy, it's super fun and engaging and dynamic and high speed. But there are things that are not for everybody, and I think we're trying to make it clearer.
Yeah. I think we talked about this offline the first time we had a conversation. And one of the things that I've noticed, really, I would say over the last decade or so, but maybe even longer, but I've noticed that you'll have like your brand. So whatever is communicated with your brand, and which could be some brand is great, some brands is decent, other brands I would kind of not expect good service if I went to one of the locations. But I've also noticed, the trend seems to be, at least from my experience, that people aren't necessarily, people who are working in these locations, they're not necessarily associating the service that they give, like with the brand as a whole. So if I think about with Sephora, for example, if I go in and I don't get great service, it's like I will attribute that then to the brand. And so I'm just curious, like how you think about that when it comes to hiring and who you bring on, and whether or not you've seen that trend yourself. Obviously, it's thinking about H&M as well, like your time with H&M. Has that gotten harder over time to find people that kind of understand that the service that they bring is directly attributes to how people feel about the brand? And like, how do you start to think about that from hiring and training and kind of balancing that as a whole, if that makes sense?
I think it's a very big and complex topic that touches different areas. On the one side, we also need to be honest as people and as brands. If we offer a transactional relationship with our people, we're getting transactional relationships back. So if the only thing that I'm offering you is a contract job for a few hours a week, then it's really hard to get that commitment to make the brand shine. Of course, if you're offering the possibility of career, of growth, of development, then there is a different level of a commitment from their side. What we're trying to do specifically on the point that you raise from a talent acquisition perspective is the fact that one of the competencies that we are screening people on, especially this new methodology that I was explaining, is some form of service mindedness, and not in terms of your behaviors and your actions, because that change, and it also changes the way you bring it about. It changes depending on the culture you're in. The way you deliver service in the US is different from Canada, and it's very different from China or from the Middle East. But the fact that you, as a human being, derive personal joy and satisfaction by seeing someone solving their problem, getting something done because of your help, because of your service to them, this is something that people have in their personality to a certain degree, yes or no. It's not black and white, of course. So we're looking for people that have a higher than average sense of service and therefore derive joy from it. Then we're happy to teach them, this is how you do it in the Sephora way in the US. This is how you do it in Sephora way in China. But I think to be happy, you need that element, and it might, we expect that it will mitigate the challenges that you were describing.
Yeah, and I think again, one of the things I think with that high volume space is you're meeting people at a time in their life where maybe they're going to school, they're going to college, they're getting other credentials. Is this more work with managers then, where you got to work with the managers more and like training them on how to recruit and hire people, and kind of keeping in mind that, hey, for some people, this is going to be more of a transitional role, and or do you also like balance in that, hey, for some people, this will be a career as well? And like, I guess, how do you kind of balance that? Is that more with management?
There is an element of training and development from managers, obviously. There's an element of interviewing from managers as well, in the same way we put it in the assessment on these characteristics. But the reality is, this is a retail job. So some people are there to stay. Many people are there for a transition period. I mean, we're talking about retail because it's evident, but isn't it the same in many careers these days? Like many, it's a bit of a cliche of the person in the same company for all of his life kind of thing, that it's over. Of course, in retail is even more obvious because of what you were saying of people stepping into retail at very early stages of their careers. I think it's fine. It's part of life. It's part of we need to manage that in the most honest, transparent and authentic way to our people. Make sure that we recruit and we recruit in a honest way. We put them in front of their face what are the actual challenges of the job. Then they take a decision, they join. Some will love it, will have a career. Some will like it, will stay, and then they'll, graduate and get another job, or move to another city, get another job, or want to try something else and get another job. And some will not like it right away. And these are the ones that we are trying to minimize as much as possible, because there's information we can share. I mean, it's natural. We need to protect ourselves as a business and minimize the turnover as much as possible. But these kind of cycles are natural. I don't like to point fingers at people, generations, and saying, loyalty is going down. It's today's work life is made of changes. It's how companies adapt and adjust and get value out of these changes that will make a difference.
You kind of touched upon this with the tech and the AI. There's a lot of options, right, in terms of how you screen people. From your TA team perspective, are you seeing a shift in what your recruiters in the field are doing? And do you see the option for managers just to take more of a role in that? Or like, what do you kind of see the future as in terms of how this tech is going to impact how your teams are structured and how you're doing things? Is that going to go more to just, the store managers that are going to be more responsible for things? What are you anticipating here?
Yeah. So in the large majority of our countries, the store managers are already responsible for 90% of this. So, considering the volumes that happen in retail, I don't know. I know a few, but I don't know many organizations that have at scale TA organizations that are designed to recruit for entry-level roles in stores. So technology towards them will just make their life easier. We're not replacing the human in the process, but we're replacing the CV sending, the admin piece, the screening, and refocusing it on what matters. When it comes to TA, if you look at this and you expand it in a sort of office roles or store leadership roles dimension, we are starting to see it, but what I believe will happen more and more is that the role of the recruiter will be a lot less that of the gatekeeper. And a lot more that of the relationship builder with the candidate. So I imagine that there will be a process where the assessment of skills, competencies, hard and soft, is done through some form of technology, potentially different types of technology over the process, with a human touch at some point at the end in terms of assessment, but the assessment piece primarily done through tech. And the role of recruiters will be to guide people through this process. There will be things that you need to build relationships with these people. You need to be able to close them at the end. So you need to be able to build relationships in the process, to answer questions, to clarify the dynamics of the company, to clarify challenges, to clarify opportunities. That, yes, you can have an AI with the right data set in it that's going to answer the questions, but it's by no means the same thing at this stage in the development of technology. So I see the roles of recruiters changing significantly in that sense. And I don't know how well many of them are prepared. I'm not talking about my organization, although we need to make all the adjustments on our side as well. But a lot of organizations still see recruiters as people that manage the process, that post a role or do some sourcing, screen candidates, tell me who are the best ones, arrange the interviews, go through the process, do the offer if we trust you enough. Otherwise, we'll put CMB or the manager to do that.
Yeah.
And that will change a lot. Those relationships will become the center of what they do, I believe.
How do you think, for maybe people who are starting in the field of recruitment, they're early on in their career, what advice and how would you advise people on how to grow in that area of building relationships? Because I think that's something that I've seen becoming more of a challenge, particularly for people coming into the role or coming into the workplace. Like, you're suddenly thrust into a world where you're dealing with, 4 or 5 different generations, different ways of communicating. And it does seem to be a challenge now. Let's say you're coming in and you're Gen Z, and now you're having it, you're relating to the baby boomers or Gen X, people with more experience. How would you advise people to, who are just starting out, to grow in that relational aspect, and what are the things they want to focus on to really, really nail that?
It's a question that is difficult to answer general term. I'll do the best that I can, because of course there's the way you build relationships with an individual depends a lot on that person on the other side, right? And what do they value and what's meaningful to them. But if you're looking at the relationship with candidates in this, so let's talk about relationship with candidates, and let's talk about relationship with hiring manager, business leaders, and so forth.
Yeah.
With candidates, I am a strong advocate for the highest possible level of authenticity that your company allows you to have. You've been on their side. You've been sitting in that chair trying to find a job. You know how it feels. Try to give back as a recruiter a little bit of what you would have wanted to receive at that point. And that includes, of course, kindness, empathy, understanding, timelessness of responses, but it also means telling it like it is. In the past, I recruited for a lot of roles when I was doing more operational recruitment. I remember going into interviews and saying, listen, the manager churns this person every 6 months. Are you sure you want to get this? If you're convinced about this, you need to be convinced that you want to give it a go, because there's a problem in this team, and this is the problem in the team. Can you make it work? When you start to use this kind of vocabulary, when you try to use this kind of openness, you build that relationship, and then you're able to not just close roles, but also to build the resilience in people pre-stepping into what might be a complex or difficult role. But in general, authenticity, transparency plays a great role. How many candidates are still in the process? I've always just had good feedback and good results from that. Managers,
yeah. So not just overselling positions, not just telling people what they want to hear. It's giving them a full scope of what you can. Like you said, within reason, right? As much as your
within reason
going to allow you to do it.
And within reason on the other side as well, because what I find, and this is firmly believing this, if you're showing the negative sides and you're talking openly about the challenges, when you then talk about the positives, which are there for any company, any job, then you're immediately a lot more credible. If you're just saying, this is amazing, this is beautiful, these are the opportunities, this is great, you're just like everybody else that's trying to sell you something. But if you're saying, this is tricky, but these things are good, they will believe you when you say what is good. So I think that plays a big role.
Yeah, I've got a friend who he owns a Amazon distribution business. So, basically here in the US, if you can afford, I think it's a fleet of 10 vehicles, you can do distribution for Amazon. But basically, I always laugh with him. He's got a staffing agency, right? Because it's high volume, it's a lot of turnover. And what he does is, in the job description, he will say things like, you must be willing to work on holidays, must be able to be on call for this time. He puts all the negative stuff. What he said was that the application volume went way down, but the people who end up getting hired, they're just more resilient and they know what to expect. So he then cuts down the amount of interviews that he's having. And that's his technique, is he tries to give people the picture of hey, these are some of the challenges. You're going to have to work on holidays. You're going to have to work on the weekends. You're going to have to do some of these things that aren't attractive. But I think we undervalue that. For whatever reason in talent acquisition, I feel like we undervalue that and we overvalue the selling on culture, the selling on all of the positives. And I think when you undervalue just telling people some of the challenges, and obviously it's not like turning people away, but it's just giving them a realistic view of what life's going to be like. I think that over time, if you're able to do that, you're going to see churn go down because people know what to expect. And I think nothing worse than getting into a position and being blindsided by things, especially when the recruiter knows, hey, this is a challenging region. This is a challenging position. So I think that's something that we need to take on more. And, it's a skill to be able to do that. It's a skill to be able to sell, but give somebody a realistic view of the position and the company as well.
Yeah. And ultimately, no matter the level, whether you're recruiting for a volume role or you're recruiting for a senior executive, there's a mutual decision there. Companies tend to forget that. They tend to think that they are the ones that are making that decision as a company, a corporate market. But candidates are making a decision, and they're usually in the unfortunate position of not being able to explore the other side as much as a company is allowed to explore the candidate side. So I'm allowed to interview you and grill you for an hour about everything that you've achieved. You've got 5 minutes at the end to figure out whether this is a good job for you.
What questions do you have?
Yeah, exactly. That's not fair. Like, I don't think that's, so we need to be able to provide information in as open, as transparent way as possible. Of course, there are dynamics around this that sometimes limit the possibility. If you're the last corporate recruiter that has joined an organization and you start to by yourself decide to write in the job ads all the difficult things that the manager will put the candidates through, you might have an issue. So I would advise caution, but there's different ways of being transparent and open without putting stuff in the JD that will get you there with the relationship building.
So that's a relationship with a candidate. Walking through like relationship with stakeholders, hiring managers. Yeah. What's your advice for that? How do you become that credible, talent acquisition, recruiting professional that they trust, they want to work with?
Yeah. For me, it's professionalism. You need to know your trade. If you know your trade, people are going to start to listen. And even if you're very junior, it doesn't matter. You can still know your trade better than the senior leaders that you're engaging with. This is your area of knowledge, your area of specialism. This is why you get a salary. You get a salary not to manage a process. You get a salary because you know TA and you know how to bring value to the company through recruiting. So on that space, get knowledgeable if you're not. And again, you don't need to study a degree in recruiting and get in debt. You can listen to Joel Lalgee's podcasts and learn a lot. You can learn a lot from...
I always have the best guests on.
Exactly. Yeah. There's so much content out there for you to become a better professional in your space, and that is number one step. And then each stakeholder, some will want you to push back and be very opinionated. Some will appreciate you listening to them a lot more and giving in to what they need, and then gradually push yourself, your knowledge into that and build your credibility. All of them will want you to understand what the business is about. All of them will expect you to be curious about how their business unit is going, how their team is going, how do they make money in that company. That's not something you can skip, but the way you build that relationship will change on the stakeholder. But you've got to be a great TA person. You need to know your trade. There's no way around that.
And I think nowadays too, we have so many tools, obviously with AI, just so much data available. But I keep telling people, like, you can't just rely on a tool to, drive data through and tell the story. You've still got to be almost independently a subject matter expert. You've got to do your own research. You've got to figure things out and not just purely rely on the output of these tools. Because I think more and more people now, I saw a study recently that showed like brain usage, or it was what happens to your brain when you use in ChatGPT. Yeah. And I think what's starting to happen is people are becoming too reliant on tools and then not necessarily able to detect whether or not the information that it's spitting out is correct, because it's not always correct, right? It's not always 100%. Yeah. And then you've also got to think that they've got the same access as well. So you don't want to get caught where you're just 100% relying on AI to spit out output. And so I think listening to podcasts, really becoming a student of the trade is huge as well. Last question here. I know we're running out of time. Where's the best place for people to find out about you? Where's the best place for people to find out about careers with Sephora as well? And where can people find out more information about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, myself is LinkedIn. I accept connection requests unless people are rude. I'm happy to connect and have conversations as much as my inbox allows. So for me, that's the best channel. For the company, Sephora's career site is the place to go. We have all of our vacancies posted there, both for corporate roles and for retail roles. If anybody fancies a career in beauty retail, the doors are open. There's always hundreds of roles that are being recruited at the moment across various locations. Never forget that 50% of our business comes from North America. So there's a lot that's happening in North America for Sephora all the time.
And you got any events coming up? Anything that you're going to be at that people can meet you at as well? Any kind of events globally that you're attending?
I attend a few, not many, but I'm scheduled at the moment to go to Unleash in Paris in October. In the second half of October is an event I love to go to every year. So that's the next one.
So Unleash Paris, you can meet up. Well, Giorgio, it's been so good to meet with you. I know we took a little bit of organizing because you're a couple hours ahead, but I appreciate all of the value. And I just say, if you're looking to connect as well, guys, always be patient. Giorgio's not spending just all day on LinkedIn like me. So definitely have some, but I know you've done other podcasts as well. So definitely check out some of the other podcasts and the content coming as well. And once again, appreciate your time. And guys, if you're looking for more information on the podcast or myself, you can go to www.realistrecruiter.com. If you're looking to be a sponsor, if you're looking to be a guest, please reach out to me, and appreciate all of you guys. If you made it this far in the episode, you're a true legend in the game. And Giorgio, it's good to have spent some time with you, to have learned from you as well. And hopefully we'll be able to meet in real life as well. Maybe I'll try and make it out to Unleash Paris. Yes. Or you can make it to Unleash in the U.S. as well in March.
Yeah. Let's see. Might be possible. Who knows? Let's talk budgets about that. Yeah.
I love it, man. Well, thanks so much again for your time, and
thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll have another guest next week for you guys as well. So we will talk soon. Thanks a lot.